Hi, I'm Max Temkin, one of the co-creators of Cards Against Humanity, and this is Tabletop Deathmatch, a competition to find the next great tabletop game. Last year, over 500 people submitted their unpublished games to a panel of expert judges. 16 finalists came to Gen Con to pitch their games in person, and one of those games will win a first printing paid for by Cards Against Humanity and be named the champion of Tabletop Deathmatch.
My name is Rob Couch, and my game is called Rocket Wreckers. Rocket Wreckers is a two-player card game about two people having a fist fight on the back of a rocket while it's speeding through the air. I started working on the game probably about 8 months ago in its original form, and about 4 months ago I made the switch from the old version to the current version. And it's been in development in its current form for probably about 4 months. And I've been through 7 or 8 different versions, fully printed, fully redone, and the version I've got right now I'm really, really excited about. I really like two-player games. The main person I play my games with is my wife, and we don't have a whole lot of other friends around that can come over for a big game night. So I really, really like two-player games, which is why I wanted to make that. I wanted to make a game that I would play. I was so excited when I heard I was a finalist in the deathmatch. I got the email while I was at work, actually, and I just dropped everything immediately, and I called my buddy, my game designer, my co-host of the podcast. I called him right away. I said, "Oh man, you're not going to believe this." And then I called my wife and said, "Oh man, oh gosh, you're not going to believe this." And then I got a follow-up email from Max that said, "Hey, don't tell anybody." So I was thrilled. I was really thrilled. I think I didn't get much work done the rest of that day. Don't tell my boss.
All right, Rob, thank you so much for coming to show us Rocket Wreckers. Why don't you tell us about the game?
Well, Rocket Wreckers is a two-player asymmetrical card game, and it kind of takes place in this crazy world where we have these two factions that have been at war with each other for decades. And one of them has just developed the power of rocket flight. And in their excitement, they hurriedly build this 200-foot tall rocket and pack it with explosives and forget to build a way to guide it. So they have to have one brave pilot volunteer to fly the rocket to hit the target and blow up the capital city of their enemies. But of course, their enemies have spies involved in there. And so they have one brave volunteer who infiltrates the launch facility and stows away on board the rocket, and then is going to try and make it crash in flight. And sometimes during the game, you're sabotaging the rocket, trying to make it crash. Sometimes the rocketer who's flying the rocket is trying to fix the rocket. Sometimes it just breaks out into a fist fight, and all hell breaks loose. It plays pretty quick, and it has some kind of unique mechanics, but for a real simple card game, there's a lot of strategy involved. It's just 40 cards total, 20 cards per player. There's two pieces to every card. You have a basic power, which allows you to take some kind of action, and then you have a value on every card, which tells you either how far you've traveled distance-wise for the rocketer, or how much altitude you've lost for the wrecker. And you cannot play a card on its own on the table. You have to always combine two cards together to form a complete link. What that means is because you can only use the value from one card and the power from another card, every time you combine two cards together, you lose another possible combination. It's asymmetrical and you have different goals. So the rocketer is trying to travel a total of 1,000 miles to hit the target. But the wrecker is trying to make the rocket drop 10,000 feet in altitude. Can play pretty quick if you're the type of person who likes a kind of an intense, fast-paced game, or you can play it really, really strategically and really think through every step of the way. Sometimes you can play these fight cards, and that's when the fight breaks out. Fight cards are the only cards that you can play alone on the table. And a fight card basically just knocks out something that your opponent has in play. So what you need to do is you need to balance that. Are you playing two cards at once, or are you just going to play the one card and use your second action for something else in the game? So you chain these actions together, you build up the additional actions, and you can really just wallop on the other guy. It's pretty fun, and I've been really, really happy with the progress that I've made on it. I've been a game designer for a little over a year and a half. I mean, I started playing D&D like so many people did, and coming up with my own campaign settings and things. And to a large degree, that's game design right there. But I got really excited about it about a year and a half ago when a friend of mine and I were just talking about design and what we would do if we were going to make a game. And we went online to try and find other resources where we could learn more about game design. We couldn't really find anything.
Rob, thanks so much for telling us about the game. This is got to be one of the coolest board game themes. Just the first sentence of the description here is like one of the coolest things I've ever heard. So just amazing imagination that you brought to it. Can you talk a little more specifically through a turn, just a single player's turn, and what choices they would make?
On every turn you have 8 cards available to you at any given time. And that's 8 cards in your hand or 8 cards on the play area or some combination thereof. So if you've already got one link in play made up of 2 cards, you're only going to have 6 cards in your hand. So on your first turn, you're going to have all 8 cards in your hand, and you're going to be looking through those. You're going to organize my fight cards versus my link cards, and you're going to be looking at the powers, because you use your powers to kind of approach your strategy and try and set yourself up for victory, of course. But you also want to pair that with a good value, either miles or feet, because ultimately that's how you win the game, by getting the distance.
Who do you see as the market for this game?
I think it's kind of intended, again, to be a 2-player game. It's intended to be played pretty quickly. I'm hoping for 15 to 20 minutes right now. I think it's often the kind of thing that you can play just as you're waiting for your rest of your game group to arrive. You know, a couple people sit down and you want to get started with something to kind of break the ice.
The theme is pretty clear. You probably started with theme here with your design and not with mechanic?
Actually, I didn't.
Oh.
The game started as a completely different product that I was calling Splitters. And I originally had that idea of putting 2 cards together, and that's where it all started. And I was developing a game about hacking a steampunk computer, and I was really, really happy with it. But once I put a prototype together, I realized it was a game about assembling pipe fittings. It was kind of boring.
Do you have any plans to add more wreckers and more of the other one?
Yeah, I would very much like to. Right now I'm focusing on making sure these 2 characters are very balanced and evenly matched against each other. That's been the biggest challenge so far, really.
So each deck has 40 cards, right?
20 cards per deck.
20 cards per deck, okay. How much duplication is there in the special effects? Like how many of those cards are duplicates and how many of them are unique?
It's about 50-50. About 50% of the deck is the same for both characters, and then the other half is unique to each character.
And what about within a single character? Like how many of those cards are unique and how many are duplicated?
No more than 2 of each card, but in some cases there are also some singles. Like the fight cards, there's only 3 fight cards in each deck, and each of them is unique. And there are a couple other singles in there as well.
How did you address the ogre problem, right? There's this asymmetric system where 2 very different factions, 2 very different sets of powers and goals. What was the process like to get to what you said is a balanced version?
Testing. Just play it over and over again. It's not ready yet. It's not 100% yet. It's still definitely in a prototype phase. Right now the wrecker wins about 70% of the time, so I'm still working on that, and that's, like I said, it's been the biggest challenge.
What happens if you run out of cards?
You just shuffle your discard pile.
And then what happens if the board locks up?
For both characters, there's a way to bank miles. And so at some point, you're going to really need to destroy or discard a link so that you can put those miles or that altitude into your reserve pile.
But it could be the case that you're not willing to do that at this point. Like you only get 8 cards total on the board and in your hand, and it could be that this could lock up. I mean, obviously you'll tune it to the best of knowledge, but do you have a contingency for it doing so?
I'm not sure that you would really want to be in that position.
No, of course you wouldn't want to be in that position. That doesn't mean that you're not in a position where if I do anything here, I'm going to give you an advantage that I don't want to give you, and so it's better for me to remain in this state.
I haven't had that happen yet, but I'll need to watch out for that, you're right.
Are there any issues with the gaining of extra actions? Because I know that anytime you have a game where you can get more actions, that can often lead to that sort of runaway scoring effect where I've got more actions so I can do more things, so I get more points, so I can get more actions, etc.
I'm still nailing it down, but there are only 2 cards in each deck that allow you to gain 2 extra actions. So the most you can do is 4 actions per turn.
Okay, and do you find that is an optimal strategy, or?
Right now it's definitely the way to play the game.
Okay, and do you have any ideas about how you might address that?
I have cards in there that also allow you to increase your hand size, which can give you more options, and I want to try and pursue those things. And I don't have a lot of defensive abilities in the game right now. Right now it's kind of all offense, and the few defensive cards that I have in there are a little underpowered. So I need to come up with another way to get to that goal without just throw action down, because it being kind of a limited choices in the game, limited options. It's a challenge, you're right.
We're looking at a really polished prototype here, and it looks great. Like the box looks really good, the art looks really good. Is this kind of your vision for how it's going to look when it's done? Do you feel like there's still a lot of design left to do?
Obviously, I need a lot more artwork. My artist has only done the 2 character designs and some faction logos for me. So every card would need unique artwork. Absolutely. It's kind of a first pass on a design. I like the feel of it. The layout of those cards has been another big challenge of the project, to try and get that usable and intuitive. So I need to continue iterating on that, absolutely.
Rob, thank you so much for coming in to show us Rocket Wreckers. I am super excited to take a closer look at it. We're going to hold on to your prototype for just a minute and talk about it, and we're going to kick you out. But thank you so much for coming. This is really, really a very cool game.
The thing I really like the most about Rocket Wreckers is the tough decisions. So it's a game about making one choice and sacrificing another option, and making that hard decision is really engaging and really fun, and I think it kind of sets it apart a little bit from a lot of other games I've played.
All right, judges, you want to come up and take a look at this? So this is definitely, I mean, I think this is like the most wildly imaginative game we've seen so far, and the theme is totally doing it for me. Like, what a crazy story.
The theme is amazing. This is one of the best concepts we've seen. Definitely.
I don't think I've ever seen, not just at this event, but ever seen an elevator pitch as good as this one, right? The Rocket Wreckers is a fast-paced, asymmetrical hand management card game. Okay, whatever. About 2 fearless heroes having a fist fight while riding a 200-foot tall rocket speeding through the sky. If you're not excited about that by the end of the time,
to me, though, that's sort of where it ends. I don't know if I'm the only one who is sort of not sold on the theme. It seems very much to me still to have that sort of like hacker sort of.
To me, the theme feels like it was generated specifically to have a 2-player card game of people fighting against each other, and they had to have some contest between them. It was like, oh, they're on a rocket.
I'm not seeing the way in which the mechanics of this game or anything about this game have to do with the theme of it, and the theme.
But that's a separate issue where the mechanics and the theme are merged properly.
Yeah, and I will say the other problem is I'm buying this story. I'm into it 100%. I want to experience this story. I'm kind of in it for the narrative. And in a game, you're going to go through every card possibly multiple times. So you don't have, as a player, I don't feel like I probably have that much control over the narrative. I feel like it's just going to be seeing the same fights and the same events and the same things happening.
I love the theme, and the mechanics I think are bad, are just not good at all. And this is like the least asymmetric game I've ever seen.
That's right. I had that same reaction.
It's thematically asymmetric, but not mechanically.
Right.
So I'd like to point out that maybe I'm the only person seeing this. That 10% of the Wrecker's deck the Rocketeer's deck is Wrecker loses their next turn.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh.
I was looking at it like, you have to go so far out of your way to make a 20-card game about a fight be exciting, and 2 out of the 20 cards are sorry you don't get to play.
Right.
And that was enough. That was enough for me.
Well, and that feels. I mean, I think that's pretty directly a band-aid over the problem of the Wrecker having crushing the other team.
That's right.
Yeah, I really feel like this is a game of missed opportunities, right? Like the theme is a great opportunity that just doesn't quite hit. And I think the 2-player card game genre is one that I'm constantly looking for new games in this genre. But, I mean, it's really hard to find good ones. I actually think combining the 2 cards could potentially be very interesting, because you are making that decision, but you've just got all these little problems that are kind of adding up to, I probably don't play this game a second time.
Right. I mean, linking the cards is interesting, but not in this fashion, because it's like, oh, you're making a choice. You're not making a choice. You're going to take your biggest distance and you're going to pair it with your best ability every time. That's not a choice.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of asymmetric games, and I think they really need to have totally different games on either side.
That's right. As somebody who spends a lot of time agonizing over graphic design, if you haven't solved the problem of how your 2 linked cards link together graphically, you don't have a game.
I don't think any of this is going to be a surprise to Rob, because I think we wanted to see this game, and we all got excited about it on the promise of the story. And I think he is, from the way he presented the game, from the original, even the steampunk version that he told us about, and the story here, like, he's a storyteller. He's very good at that, and I think he knows the design that's left to do in this game, and the playtesting that's left to do, and the balancing that's left to do. I mean, I don't think that's a surprise to him.
I don't think this is the game that he wants to make. I think he has another idea for another game somewhere down the line. I think he's noodling around. I think he has some cool art that he's put in here that's utterly in the way of the design right now.
Well,
he needs to void all of the art out of the prototype and work on the mechanics, and because he thinks that the art is telling a story and is part of the game, and it's not.
Well, and that's a trap I know I've fallen into with designs, where I get too far along with prototyping and with the look and feel of it, and it makes it so precious that when there's a mechanical problem, it's hard for me to scrap it or change it radically.
Yeah, but I mean, he did start with this being a pipe fitting game, and then moved into this. Like, I think he had a mechanic he liked. Then he found a theme he liked, put it on top of it, and what he needs to do now is take the theme he liked and move forward with it.
There's something to be said for how prepared he was, though, as well. I mean, he brought like 3 prototypes. They all look good. He knows that he needs more artwork, but like in theory, you look at that, and that looks like a final card to me. That's why I think it was a good question to ask if he anticipated more work being done. He had a good presentation, and I think that's worth noting.
Sure. So I think I mean, it seems like we're all on the same page here of great potential, great promise. We all want to see it played out more than it is, and we want to see more of it.
If I don't win, gosh, I mean, I love the game so much. I really love the game, and I'm really excited about it, and I definitely want to see it through to success. I'll look into self-publishing, of course. I mean, Kickstarter is a great resource, but I'm also going to probably shop into some bigger publishers. I'm just really afraid of self-publishing. There's so many variables and so much that I'm just not sure about. I have so much to learn, I guess. But one way or another, this is a great opportunity, and I'm really excited about it. I definitely want to see the game through, though.